With you, please. Dear God, we thank you for the city of St. John and for the council members and the concerns that will be shared during this city council meeting. We ask you, God, to give wisdom to the council members and to those who will share reports and opinions during this meeting. Help us to hear one another and respond with kindness and respect, but in truth. Keep our hearts safe during this time as we seek to help the community of St. John move forward in becoming a better, safer place to live and work and worship. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Have a nice Thanksgiving.
You too.
Okay, is there any additions to the agenda?
One will be for the car shop, for the nitrate man, and the other one will be radio upgrade, radios upgrade.
And I have one on new business for Dr. Botzer Memorial.
So be it.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Thank you, Council. Consent agenda.
Approve the minutes for the regular meeting, November 6, 2012. Approve the appropriation ordinance, November 20th, 2012, in the amount of $13,709.47.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Thank you. Citizen comments. Carolyn Dunn. Please come forward if you would like.
I think the last time I was here, I was asking you to consider writing a letter of endorsement for a grant proposal for housing, and we didn't get the grant. I do appreciate very much the council's willingness to support that. I think we had a strong application. The feedback I got from those reviewers was that they liked it. There wasn't anything they didn't like about it. They just didn't have enough funding for all of the ones that they received. If the program's available next year, they welcome that we apply again. So just to let you know about that. I'm here tonight for a similar request, an endorsement of a grant application that we have the opportunity to apply for. This is to the Kansas Health Foundation. They have a program called the Healthy Communities Initiative. And the purpose behind it is essentially the mission of their organization is to promote healthy community, or how they put it, striving to develop local infrastructure to support comprehensive community approaches to healthy behaviors. A lot of the focus is on improving physical activity, reducing exposure to tobacco, and increased healthy food access. The grant that we're applying, or would be applying for, would provide funding for a planning process. A portion of that would fund what there's a part-time employee of our organization now. It would allow us to continue to have some staff to put toward these kinds of activities. One of the things that I'm seeing is a little bit of an opportunity, I guess, to act upon is that we don't have a very formalized planning process for some of these things in the county, so that when other bigger opportunities come along, we're not ready to jump on it. Example, Sunflower Foundation right now has an RFP open for funding that would pay for construction of walking trails. You kind of have to have a plan in place of where that trail is going to be, make sure that the property is available, there's support for that plan before you really are very competitive to apply for that application. We don't have that plan in place, so I think we're missing the opportunity to pursue that. This grant, I know it sounds kind of bureaucratic, but this grant would provide support for that planning process so that when those bigger grants are available down the road, we might be more competitive for them. And they very much value the idea that that cities are part of that process. So what I'm asking you to consider is not only a letter of support for the grant application, but that letter stating that the city is willing to be a part of that process. Not funding, in fact, I drafted something for you to consider, and it specifically says that the city's not committing funds at this time, but can be involved in a thoughtful planning process and low-cost policies to promote an environment of physical activity and healthy behaviors. I went to a meeting that was basically an informational meeting about this program, and I kind of had some light bulbs turn on for me about how you can do some of these things without necessarily having a lot of expense involved, even in the walking trails part. For example, it might be something where we consider designating the parking lane in one of the city streets as the bike lane. So you're not creating new infrastructure, but it is the kind of the policy choice to do that on behalf of the city. I mean, I'm not saying that those are some of the options that might be out there. What was the other? There's one other example of something that wasn't really, it wouldn't necessarily cost anything. You just differently utilize the infrastructure that's already there. One other, I think one other example, I guess, was the idea that cities might consider policies that put in place that when new streets are developed or even existing ones, repaired or redone, that a policy is that a complete street is there, meaning that it has a sidewalk. So that makes a walkable community. And, you don't have to put out any expenditure to make that policy. It just is a part of your planning when those changes do occur. So those are the kinds of things that I think might fall into this. There also can be things that maybe don't have so much to do with necessarily city management, but could be a part of our project. But things that those kinds of things could come up. It's just why they value, I think, even in the design of the program that the city's involved in the first place. So I, again, drafted something that is designed to just help you be able to visualize the requests, the assistance I'm requesting.
I don't know if
That you can
this draft, which should do it, but the council.
I would, do we need a motion to do that? To do a letter of support stating,
I would like to have a motion.
okay,
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead and you finish what you were going to say.
move that we write a letter of support stating that the city is willing to be a part of the process and,
Can we use what Sherry drafted up?
if everyone's okay with that, I mean,
Isn't
is
that
that,
your
You
intent?
know,
Yeah.
That's
and
fine.
If you want to change it in any way, feel free, but I think that would meet the requirements that they have set forth in the RFP.
okay,
The only other thing that I might say is if you wanted to designate who that person would be, if, what this would look like if we even get in. I mean, this is at this point just an application, but we would know in the spring whether or not we were approved, and it's likely going to be a monthly meeting. I know everyone just loves to be obligated to another monthly meeting, but if you wanted to designate a staff person, that's appropriate. If you wanted one of your council members to be the designee, that would also be fitting.
Would it fit into Amy's schedule in that building?
I like how you
And then have an alternative like Kevin
Sure,
It'd be good because you're president of council.
sure. If it's in that building, probably.
Why does that make it more convenient for me?
It might not be in
That's what I'm
that,
asking.
it might not be in the annex building, the meeting.
There you go.
So see,
I would be happy to do it if,
I'll second that motion.
okay. Can we have John write this up and put it on letterhead though? I mean, that's kind of what I was getting.
yes.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, that was emotional.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Thank you.
What all ones we're approving, by the way? Just the letter or her appointment to it too?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, there we go.
Be sure to refer to your letter that it's the president of that foundation, Steve Cohen.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Fire department next. Michael?
First thing I have, February 13th of February of 2013, the radios all have to be narrow banded. So you guys should have got a quote for radios, and that should provide everybody with a radio that is narrow banded.
Where all did we get bids from?
This has been the cheapest place we've had. I mean, I didn't get bids from Great Bend, but they've always been $10 or $15 more expensive on radios, so.
Does that have to be done tonight?
Doesn't have to be.
I was gonna suggest Doug Brown from the city of Stafford provided the radios that he did for his cost, wholesale cost in the city of Stafford. So
This,
I asked him today, is this through Doug or is this? I asked Doug today if he'd be willing to take the same offer at St. John. He said he would. So they're about $290 a piece, so through Stafford, what they were getting, plus or minus $5.
what kind does he get?
I can't remember the brand. You can call him on my cell phone, ask him.
Well, who else, if you go through him, who's your service department?
He works in the service.
Doug does?
Well, he said he had no problem with it. I mean, if you guys, yeah, it's,
Well, the reason we went with Motorola is because we've got all the software and all the attachments to hook up to the radios to do all that ourselves. That's why we went with Motorola. We've had Vertexes in the past. Didn't seem to work out very good. They didn't last. They didn't stand behind their warranty because of the conditions they were in.
You only have 2 radios that are good for cash rebate?
Well, right now Motorola is running a promotion that if you buy 6 radios, you get $185.
Through this company, if you have to have service, you got to pull the radio and take it to Salina or what?
No, we
Or
just
Topeka or what?
No, we just ship them back there. But like I said, we should be able to do about anything except for if something internally gets damaged. I mean, we should be able to
Right.
do any of the upgrades or any of the programming that we need to do. That's kind of why we went with trying to get all the same radios. So we wouldn't have, because software's like, I think around $2,000 for the software, and then the cable's like $300 or $400.
You said you already have the software?
Yes, the county actually has the software.
What's the one do?
Oh, I put it on new business or old business for December 1st meeting. See what Doug Brown's gonna do.
You said this has to be done by when, Mike?
February 2013.
Yeah, February of next year.
In that time, can we also call Motorola Grid in? I mean,
Yeah, we can.
give them a shot at it.
I can.
Well, that would be easier if we did have to have service, just a quicker turnaround.
So check with Doug Brown and Great Bend.
Yeah.
And then also, I want to add Dalton Lutz and Jacob Whitaker.
What was the second name?
Jacob Whitaker.
I appoint Dalton Lutz and Jacob Whitaker.
Yeah.
To the fire department. Can I have a motion, please?
So
Oh, go ahead.
I moved to
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Thank you.
That's it.
Is there any questions for Michael?
How many people you got on the department, Mike?
I think that would be 23. With them two, I think.
So who all has radios in?
Well, everybody has radios now.
So we have 23 radios floating around that everybody's in charge of?
Well, now some of them are county-owned radios.
How many does the city own?
I don't know, I have a list out of the station, but probably 16, 17, 16.
So are 4 or 5 or 3 of these already narrowband, or we
Yes, we've got
reducing them
3, we already have 3 narrowband radios. Actually, we have maybe 5, but we've got a couple people that don't have any radios right now due to new members.
So these radios that we have that are narrowband, they're also
Motorola,
Motorola?
yes.
now? Are the people that get the radios handed to them, are they responsible for them, or are we? If they,
Yeah.
We already take care of it. But we haven't had any troubles in the past.
I know when Leonard was the chief there at the end, he bought a couple, he decided to kind of go with the Motorola's because he had bought a whole bunch of Vertexes, and like I said, we had troubles with them.
Where's all the Vertexes?
That's what they're carrying now. I mean, there's probably 6 or 8 of them still.
Are they narrowband?
No.
What's the difference between narrowband and whatever we're on now?
The government narrow banded it so that, I don't know. I mean,
The government has limited how much bandwidth we have, and by February of 2013, they've mandated that the bandwidth that any emergency service take over is less than it is now. So all of them have to be capable of narrowband or will be in violation of federal law.
Is bandwidth described in miles or?
No, it's described in how much output each agency can put out. You know, the
we
towers
just
are
use a
basically
cell
like
phone,
radio.
Right. More cell phones. So
They're freeing
now
up more room for communications from cell
Right.
phones and,
Right.
and data networks and all that.
But we've known about it. I mean, it's not like they've just sprung it on us.
Mm-mm.
It's been.
Yeah, we talked about it last year.
I'll say we've talked about it before.
Could you bring the total of radios we have, Michael, with you the next time, please? Thank you. Any other questions for Michael this evening? Thank you very much. Police Department, Adam?
The last meeting, you guys asked me to bring any purchases for the police department to be approved through you guys through the council meeting. So I need approval for uniform pants, some uniform shirts. We have a flashlight in the patrol car that's, I don't know, it's going on about 10 years old that finally died, as well as some collar brass and name tags for our Class A uniforms due to promotions of Aaron and I. So I mean, if you want, I can give you dollar figures if you want. If not, I just need approval to purchase. It's just everyday stuff.
It's under your spending limit.
It's total for all uniforms. Everything is $478.
470.
8.
Is that including the flashlight and the?
Oh yeah, that's everything.
Thank you.
He has approval to purchase?
Make a motion? No. Nobody's arguing about it?
No.
I have one other thing. I need to purchase ammunition. I need to get duty rounds for each officer, and I also need to purchase some practice ammo. I can't give you prices on it. It's gone up and down since the election, so I can't give you any set prices. It has. I'm not lying to you. I can't give you any set prices right now.
How many rounds are you talking?
Well, I need approximately 100 rounds per officer for duty ammo, and then I need approximately the same for practice ammo.
And what size ammunition?
40 Smith & Wesson.
Is that okay with council?
Fine. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Do you have questions for
I still got.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we took the truck up to Marmy's.
Yes.
We got it halfway taken care of.
Okay.
The fuel pump was bad, as well as the
O2 sensor.
O2 sensor. So they replaced the fuel pump and the O2 sensor. However, when they were doing their checks, they found that they basically were saying the rear brakes are almost needing to be done. We knew that. We had planned to have that taken care of with our next oil change. The tie rod ends under the steering components wore out, which is the same thing. We've had problem year after year with the truck replacing those, as well as they call it an axle boot. I don't exactly know what the axle is. You know, they just described it as basically a rubber boot that would go over like a CV shaft kind of thing, something like that. That all needs to be replaced. Marmy's, I told them to hold off on that. That I felt that our local mechanic here in town could take care of that. And they estimated the cost, Marmy's estimated the cost of that at $500 to replace the tie rod ends, the boot, and then as well as an alignment.
500?
500 was their estimate. Now I'm could be almost 100% sure it'll be cheaper here since it's not a dealership. But
Didn't we just have that done
we have had
3
that.
months ago?
We've had that done on that truck for 1 or 2 times a year for about 5 years now, which is one of the reasons it needs to go.
Okay, so will you ask Fisher Service Center to give us an estimate on that?
It's gotta be done. I
Just
just
gotta
say
do
they'll do
Take
it.
it out there and get it done.
Marmy's did or Fisher's?
Fishers or let's be whoever he has to
Oh,
do
well,
it.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's gotta be done, it's gotta be done.
Okay.
Fisher's the only one that's got a lineman with them.
Yeah.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there any other questions for Adam this evening?
Thank you.
Thanks again. Administration Mel?
Okay. As in regard to the siren information, remember last time we had bids and council made a recommendation on the price as far as the selection. Sent it into USDA, they looked over everything, and the one we picked out did, actually all of them except for one did not meet specifications as far as for the bid. So the lower price we picked didn't work out for us, so. The one that, well, a little more information on that. The one that we picked that had the lower price, there was an option to bid for 3 sirens, which were the Omni style, which is just, doesn't have any rotating type horn or anything like that. It's just, everything goes out in different directions is what one of the options was for 3. the price that we selected was for 2 with a rotating type horn that put out more decibels than the stationary type. But USDA felt that the way this company priced it and listed it on there really wasn't fair to everyone else, because they had the option to bid 3, they bid 2, and the decibel deal was actually more than what was required. The 2 sirens, it's really something. The 2 sirens that rotate will actually cover the town. But the one with the 3 sirens or the 3 stationary sirens that was a higher price didn't work out as far as in our eyes. But they're the only ones that qualify. If we want to rebid it for 2 sirens with a rotating type horn, we're pretty much going to have to start over again. I talked to, there's 2 schools of thought on the sirens. That some people think that the stationary Omni style gives the best coverage because the horn travels about 3 revolutions per minute, which, that's fairly quick. But what I've been told is that the best way to do it is just the stationary, and this sound comes out and everybody gets it at the same time. So the specs was for 120 decibels at 120, or at 100 feet, I'm sorry. 120 decibels at 100 feet. No one met this except for this one company. The other one was 130 decibels at 100 feet, but that was the one that bid the two siren setup. So anyway, so I've tried to work with this company on the 3 siren setup. The problem is the way they bid this. They had everything broken down, and adding it together, we come up with a dollar figure. But they threw in here, and I didn't solicit it on the bid, but they threw in here setup and startup fees. One was $1,600, and then the travel time and all that was $1,667. So I said we did not solicit it. It was that we were going to install it, and everyone else was going to sell it as we put it on a pole, hook up the electricity, and it goes. So they're asking for all this other on top of the equipment costs, and I said we don't want that. So we want to be able to put it up. So well, we need to hook our computer up and all this kind of stuff. So I called him up and I said, do you need to get rid of that? Because that wasn't part of the bid in our eyes. So, whatever you guys want to do, we can start over and try the 2 siren thing. But like I say, there are drawbacks to it. So I can see if I can work it out with this company. I waited till 5 o'clock from the day to get something to them, and they never didn't come through. So. But, I think we can make it work. It's just going to take a little more time. But USDA said that perfectly all right to do what we're doing. So what we need from them is a listing on what they're going to provide, the cost. Council okays it, and we'll send it in to them. The other interesting thing I found out was the price that we had, the $22,000 and something. The original price per siren that we use as a base to come up with this grant was $9,750, I think, per siren. Well, when the price goes down on the bid, so does USDA's portion of that. We have to spend the first $18,000 of this whole project is on the city, and then whatever it takes, to finish it up, they'll pay. And so on the 22, they were going to contribute like $4,000 or something. Or if we go this other, we're still going to do the 18. I don't care who we go with, but their portion goes down. So anyway, so I can keep working with them, see if we can come up with a price, and go from there. So, but all the others, the decibels were not up to the 120, and that is a recommendation. I did get some information. At 100 feet, it should be 120 decibels. That's what's recommended. I don't recall what that's recommended. We have 118, 115. I guess this one company is the only one, and theirs is 121.
Are they the one that came out demonstrating?
No. They were, USDA threw them out too high, and they didn't, their decibel rating. So we're going up this one. So.
Well, I say work with them,
Okay.
if you can.
I don't know.
So I'll try and come back with a solid price.
And this would be the 3 sirens?
The 3 sirens, yes.
The USDA is gonna pick up 18,000 right off the
No,
bat.
no. We have to pay.
We
18.
pay.
Well, we pay 18,000 and they pay.
The maximum they're gonna pay is, they're gonna pay $9,700 is the most they will pay.
You could authorize him to give him authority to go up to X dollars, and he wouldn't have to be bringing it back every time unless he wanted to do it every minute.
Do you want, and we could do that, and I could tell them, but USDA wants something in writing, and they want the council meeting minutes and everything approved, so that's a big part better.
Yes.
So. Okay. As far as radios, Michael helped me out big time on this. He kind of led me through what we're all going to have to do, and then I was following his lead on that. And I don't have any problem if we want to get other prices. We'll just get Doug Brown's and Motorola's and from Great Bend, go from there. So we're in the same position as they are. So
How many radios do you need, man?
12.
Well,
So
maybe they could do
instead of making a bid for 12 and 13, can't we make it for 25 so it's cheaper?
Motorola does it, well, it could be, but they do it in quantity of 6 increments. You buy 6 radios, you get a $185 rebate, cash rebate. If you buy 12, you get the 360, or whatever I figured out to. But if you buy 7 radios, you only get the 185. So if we can get it has to be 6 at a time before you get in.
Okay,
Well, I understand
you need to buy
185, but
six. You
to
need to
me,
buy
if you
six.
walk in there and say, hey, I want them 24 radios or 25 radios, it's a little more attractive than.
Go ahead.
He did give me the best deal he could on the mobile radios.
He just said if you buy them multiples of 6, every 6 you buy, you get $185. That's how that works.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Okay, so that's fine. Okay, next thing is that for the nitrate removal plant building, I need to decide on color.
And the tank's gonna be about, oh, you know what them blue silos used to look like way back when? That's about the color it's gonna
It'll
look
be
like.
similar,
But
maybe a
it's-
little bit darker. probably.
Yeah. I don't know if you've been through Goddard or not, but they're on the west side of Goddard. There's a water tank there, that's what the color will be. Yes, the water tank, but for the building, what do y'all want?
You have to decide on the roof trim, window trim.
I'd take it over there to Danny Smith, let him take it. He's the only one that's gonna have to look at it.
Oh, there's gonna be a lot of colors on it.
Or if you guys don't care, Jill and I will work on it.
Yeah. Oh, you're rolling your eyes back. You think you got good
I already
color.
made them all.
We're going with purple and white. Power cut on it, that's exactly right.
I'm good with that.
So it's okay, whatever Mel picks out?
Fine with me.
Okay, Mel said he's not picking out, so.
That's why you guys are, because I said, he said, well, you can just pick it out. I said, no, whatever I pick out, I said, why weren't we consulted about this?
Now we decided you're good, Janet, so get her done.
I'll turn it over to Jill and Amy.
Okay, we'll take care of it.
Good.
Is
That's
that it,
all I
Mel?
had.
Is there any questions for Mel this evening? Okay, thank you, Mel.
Thank you.
Don?
One thing I had last week, we talked about getting Joe Plazio on board to make recommendations on the police department. I've contacted him. He has been sent the performers that we looked at last week. His game plan to me on the phone was to interview the administrative staff, interview all the officers, and then interview anyone else that wants to be interviewed, and then make his recommendation to the city. And he was going to be on vacation this week for Thanksgiving to Ames, Iowa. I know he met with John last week at Clerk's meeting in Wichita because he was one of the presenters at the Clerk's meeting. So I know that he told me they were going to have lunch, and I'm sure they did. So that process has started, and it's gonna take probably another couple weeks to get that all completed. And he didn't think it would take that much time. He probably figured that in half 2 days probably would take care of most of it. He wanted to be thorough on it and make sure everybody that wanted to be interviewed was interviewed and got some feedback from everybody and then he made his recommendation. So
Okay. Thank you.
that's it.
Okay. New business. Oh, is there any questions for Don? Sorry, Don. Okay, thank you. New business. Superintendent Josh Meyer, please come forward.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for giving me a few moments to speak. And thank you all for serving on the council. I know it can be a thankless job at times, but I would say thank you for serving. This is just kind of the initial discussions with the board and everybody about the library funding situation. I know it's kind of been an ongoing issue. Of course, it's new for me. There's some things there. I think you all have a copy of that. I brought a few extras if I needed one. But as you can see, we do have some updated numbers on the active patrons. It's closer to 50-50. That's part of the issue with some of this data. Trying to come up with the most current numbers is kind of a tough thing. But the hours of operation, you can see it's about a little less than half that the hours that the library is open is for the school district. Of course, kids can use it all summer and in the evenings, of course, as well. But, see the operational costs estimated there in the approximate share. So about 3/4 of the cost is covered by the school district. That seems to be an imbalance. And why do we need to look at this now? Two main reasons, I think. The school district, we collect taxes and we receive state aid to educate the kids. We get this certain pot of money that's based on student enrollment. We can't choose to say, hey, we want to do something else with this. We want more. We're going to collect more taxes and more state aid. So we take a portion of that we say we're telling our taxpayers we're collecting to educate the kids, and we fund the public portion of the library. Some of those funds go to that. Also, our budget has shrunk about 22% over the last 10 years. That makes it more important. Maybe you've seen in some of the news, the governor has a efficiency task force that is really looking at our dollars and cents and how we as school districts spend money to educate kids. So we need to make sure we're being as efficient as we can. So I'm not asking anything of you tonight. I just want to get the facts out there. The board's been talking about this. I don't know what the right balance is. Some potential solutions on the third page there. Our local option budget, that's only local taxes here in USD 350. We can up that to, it's legally allowed to be 30% of our general fund budget. We can up to 31%. That means about $25,000 to $30,000 in extra tax revenue. That's one option. That a public vote is required for that. That's still based on enrollment, so as enrollment fluctuates, so does that portion of the budget. Number two...
What is that percentage, sorry, right now? What is that percentage right now?
It's at 30% for the local option budget.
That'd be an increase of 1%, is what you're saying?
Well, our local option budget is just local tax dollars that we collect, separate from what the state gives us. And that's 30% of our general fund budget. So we can up that to 31% of our general fund budget. Right now that part is $855,000.
Okay.
And that's used, I guess the intent of that is if schools want to do extra things, they can use that money for that. But that's just a local tax, no state aid is provided for us. Option two, the special mill levy. There's two school districts in the state that collect the tax for public libraries. Kansas City, Kansas is one, and Independence, Kansas is the other. They have special state legislation that allows them to do that. The law only allows for certain reasons to collect taxes. The local option budget is one, capital outlay is another. Our general fund, we have a tax levy for that also. But there's nothing that allows us to say, hey, we want to fund our public library with a special tax among the entire school district. So that would require state legislation change, which would be quite a task, lots of legal hurdles, and maybe even a public vote with that. And why would we want to do that? Well, if we look at the city's valuation at 5 to 6 million, roughly, 1 mil, you collect about 5,000, 5 to 6,000 in taxes. Our school district is 43 million. So 1 mil, when we levy, we get 43,000. So it's quite a bit different in the amount of mills that we would have to levy to raise some significant dollars there. And another thing, this year we dropped our mill levy by 2.4 mils. Nothing we did really on purpose to say, hey, we want to lower the mill rate. We're not going to do as much, but it goes back to our budget's based on enrollment for the most part. So when that enrollment drops, so does our budget, so does the mill levy. So we can't say, wait a second, we want to keep our mill levy the same. Let's just not drop it that 2.4 mils and not worry about cutting anything. We want to do this with our library. Let us keep our mill levy the same. We don't have that choice. That's not an option. So, and we've been losing cash over the past few years, and we can't keep doing that. We're spending more than we're taking in revenue. So that needs to change. Number 3 would be the city provides more revenue, and don't throw anything at me here. I'm not suggesting we're doing 10 mils. I kind of put that as an example of what if we say the city's going to cover a quarter of it and put it at roughly 50,000. Well, that puts it at approximately 10 mils, which I pay taxes in the city as well. I don't want to see that. So again, that's just an example provided there. The Education Foundation is where the money for the memorial funds are kept in the Educational Foundation, and that's provided about $25,000 a year. We can consider getting a bigger contribution from there. Another thing there, we could maybe ask for more endowments or donations to help fund that as well. And then the 5th option, reduce expenditures for the library. Fewer hours, fewer staff, fewer purchases, things like that. So I don't know that any one of these things is going to be the way to go, but the board said we ought to look at all of them and pursue what will be possible with all of them. In the end, what will it be? I don't know, but maybe a little bit of everything. The tables down there, just an example, and again on that option number 2 with the special mill levy, there's so many legal hurdles there in getting state laws passed, asking our local, our state representative and senator to put forward any bill regarding taxes that could be seen as raising taxes on folks might be a long shot. But that table shows an example of our school district mill levy and what that would do if we would levy another 2 mills. And again, the 2 mills is just an example. It could be a half mil or a quarter mil or something like that. So, and then on the bottom shows our general fund budget. That was more for the school board, but so it may not mean a whole lot to you. So the main reason I come to you is just so I can get all the facts out and continue the conversation. And,
which I truly appreciate, rather than you coming when it becomes an emergency.
Right.
And then requiring us to make a hard decision, so.
On number 2, Josh, could they do a county mill levy? Or would that still have to, you would still have to do the jump through hoops and all that?
We would still have to do that, and that would probably change our library district, which complicates things immensely with the South to Central Kansas Library Services. We already pay a little bit of taxes toward that, which includes lots of counties. I can't quote all of them. So changing that changes your library district and complicates things quite a bit. It may be a possibility, but.
Okay.
You have to get contribution from staff or Maxwell.
Well, I mean,
Participate in that.
Maxwell doesn't have a city library, and I do.
Yeah, they do.
Well, they do, I take that back, they do. But it's not open very much, and I don't know that they have the capability to a lot of outlets like this library has. I mean, when I was in school, I came over here and did book reports and stuff like that. I mean, or whatever I had, not book reports, but if I had to do reports and do research papers and stuff, I came over to this library. So, and I don't know what Stafford has. Can you might tell me what Stafford has? Do you know?
They have a city library, and I don't know
It's
how many
independent.
hours it's open, but they also have a school library. Both of them have school library.
Right, right.
But they're not combined over there, they're
Mm-mm.
separate.
No. Yeah, they're all separate.
Yes,
It's
correct.
different from
Correct, yes. So I didn't know what Stafford had, so. Because I mean, whenever I'm looking out my kitchen window, I see lots of familiar faces all over the county using our library,
Sure.
so. And that's great. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. Because it is a very good library. So.
On option 3, that 10 mills, is that like the least amount that you can do it to get where you're wanting to head with that?
No.
Or what?
No, this, I'm not recommending we go to 50,000 and maybe, like I said, I'm not coming asking you to
Right,
raise
I'm
the
just-
mill levy right now.
I didn't know if there's a certain level you're wanting to get to,
Ideally, I think.
and that's the minimum you want it, that if option 3 was chose, that's the minimum, or what the deal was?
No, I just kind of shooting in the dark. Well,
Okay.
if it was about 25% that the
Okay.
city would share in the costs, what would that be?
Right,
So,
okay,
That's the reason I went there.
okay.
And it, if the foundation puts in a little bit more and the city puts in a little bit more, maybe we have to cut back a little bit more, maybe the special tax levy, all of those just a little bit, I think, make things a little better. But I think right now we're lying to our taxpayers a little bit when we're saying we're using this money to educate your kids. But we're using that money to keep the library a public library. And it's a great library. I'm not trying to take away from it. And our kids still get educated there in the evenings in the summer. But I think it's definitely something we need to address.
Okay. Well, we could gradually, on number 3, we could gradually work on something.
And there may be a maximum levy that the city's allowed to.
Well, there's a statutory levy, and that's what the city, but that doesn't mean that they can't increase that. I mean,
Okay.
I think that they can go higher, but they could also take some out of their operative, their water and light fund and transfer it and
Sure.
and make an appropriation over too. So, and there's ways to do it without having to raise a lot of taxes. It could be done through some of the
Right.
revenue funds.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. That's the other thing about that. If you increase your contribution to 50,000, it doesn't mean it's 10 mills.
Right.
It comes from somewhere else.
No.
How much, have you got any idea what the percentage of time is that's spent in the library on computers versus checking out books?
I can get that for you. I don't have it with me, but we do keep track.
I'd like to have that information, because everybody's got a computer. Are they really using the
No,
library?
not everybody has a computer, Bobby.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people adult people that I know that go in and use the computers. And even kids that they don't have a computer at home.
Yeah.
Here, we have a lot of patrons come in that don't have computers and they use it. And like Mayor Steinman said, we have a lot of students coming in, especially here within the last couple of weeks. We've been having a large influx of students coming in, using computers, doing research, coming right back, using them again, and just going to town on them. I mean, so
Okay,
they're using them quite a bit.
So let's carry this a little further. How many computers has the school system got?
They can only stay in the school
Yeah.
for so long after school hours.
Yeah, I can't
not as many as we should have, right?
I would agree too.
And anytime I appreciate input or questions or anything.
Okay, well, we'll definitely keep an eye on this and keep looking at it, Josh.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, Christie, you're next. Come on up.
Well, this is good fortune to share some of this with you after Mr. Myers talked. I'm here because I wanted to start giving you about reports about every half a year or whatever. And so last April I came, so I'm here this month. And this is just kind of a summary of what's been going on. And the first thing is I want to toot our horn. We are a 5-star library again through the Library Journal. And it's a magazine, and they collect data when we turn in all our state reports. And so we are a 5-star library for 5 years in a row. There were only 30 libraries in the nation that got this honor, and it's all based on service to the community. And so it's what people check out and how many people are checking out, how many times they come to the library, how many times they attend a program, and their computer usage. And so we're very proud of that. And,
Congratulations, I think that's
thank you.
awesome.
We're sharing that information with anybody who will listen to it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
One conversation that the library board had was last spring we used our shelter. People used our shelter. And we had pets come. And at first we were kind of, besides messes, even, interacting with people and other animals could have been touchy. And it was full. We were very fortunate. So we've kind of talked with our police and special services and emergency, thank you, yeah. And I think what we've come up with is that they're going to help us put together a packet that whoever's there, and we kind of know who comes, who needs to be there. So they'll know where this packet is, and it's an explanation of where they need to go and how to handle things if this happens or that happens. We're going to try to get the word out early before storm season that if you do have a pet, would you please crate them at the very least, put them on a leash. And we wondered if maybe we could use the city bills to maybe start doing that like in February or March.
Put a
help.
reminder on there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there anything else with that?
I do have a question. Is there a place down there that would be available for, like, I have 2 carriers right now that I'd be glad to donate.
Oh, awesome. We do have storage.
The problem is access to it. If there would likely be somebody with a key there, but can't guarantee it.
Wow.
Okay.
But that would probably help.
Sure.
It's just an idea,
Yeah.
so.
Do you ever have anyone off the highway come in?
We had
We
a
did this.
ball team this last time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but I've asked about it before. When you come in on 4th Street, you see the emergency shelter sign pointing us this way, but then there's not one that points to the library. Is there?
I think there is.
I think there's one over by Hill's house.
Is there?
I didn't
Okay.
know if there was an arrow on it or not, but I think it's.
I think that's what it
storm
is.
shelter.
It doesn't point you to the library.
Because I was talking to Mel that maybe we should put at least some kind of mileage or something on the signs, remember? Because the
The
school.
one out on the highway, I think, doesn't it,
Yeah, it's 4 blocks. on
yeah,
it.
4
Oh,
blocks
it does,
is storm
okay.
shelter.
Well,
Okay.
anyways, we talked about that because that bus wasn't for sure where to go, because I remember hearing it on the scanner.
Right.
And so,
Once you get down there, I think there's another one pointing that way, but you're thinking we're off of 4th Street, we need better direction?
Yeah, of course, it could just be me.
No, actually, no, you look at it and it can be a little confusing because I've had people that visit me and they say, well, where is it? Because I see it all the time, but
Yeah, 'cause
where
you don't know
is
to
it?
go down, you don't know whether you need to go downtown here, or if you turn and go to the library or the school. It's not just real clear to somebody who doesn't know.
If somebody's not familiar with St. John, they're not going to know.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we can
Maybe
see
we
about,
could put a different sign there that says storm shelter, basement of the library. I don't know, we'll try to think of something. But,
Maybe well, it's not always school. I was gonna say, maybe the school could put in their notes, you know, to other teams. There is but it's not always just all the time the school to do it.
right.
One of the big things we implemented this fall was we joined a consortium called the Sunflower E-Library, and we pay to be a part of that, and then we purchase ebooks. So our patrons can download, you know, to Kindles or Nooks, and it's like borrowing a book. You can borrow it for 2 weeks. It goes on your machine, and then it automatically checks itself in after 2 weeks. So we're trying to get the word out that that's available, and you don't have to always buy your books. We're hoping that helps our patrons. And we just purchased 2 Kindles that patrons will be able to check out and give it a try, see how things work. And probably we'll be having some more different kinds, but right now we've got 2 Kindles. I went to a workshop called the Earth Institute Partnership at Heston, and we learned about prairie restoration and how to bring it back to both the school and the library. And I'm hoping for this to be a community project, especially the library. They will help us plan and plant a garden that has just prairie plants and teach others about, you know, the culture of the library, the prairie. So you'll be hearing more about that. And then
Is it xeriscaping or just prairie?
Well, I don't know the right wording. It's economical, you know, it's not that much water. It's what's native to us, so it grows well in our area.
Okay.
It's zoned to us. I gave you a few stats there about what kind of programming we've had over the year. We get a lot of usage of all different kinds, and I just thought I'd put it out that there's a good variety of things happening at the library. And a couple of things for the future is we're working with the school district and some other community, the rec department, trying to get a grant to provide an after-school program, and part of that would be using the library. And we're looking for partners in the community, you know, like
research and extension.
yeah, that they may, you know, write us a letter and say, we'd be able to provide this for your after-school program, some kind of program. So if you're out there and have some ideas that you might like to help plan with us for the kids, that would be great. And we're gonna be forming a committee. We're looking at the library, the face of the library is changing. Looking at it more as not just holding information, but people are participating now. We don't just, share information with everybody. It's out there, and we can see the library as a gathering place, and we're gonna have all different kinds of books, and so we'd like to have a committee of community people to help us think about what we want to see the library doing in the next 10 years. And so you'll be hearing about that as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I had J. Foster call me, which was Dr. Foster's son, and he passed the summer. So he would call to ask if they could do a memorial for him in the city square by planting a tree and then putting a very nice stone bench by that tree. His name will be engraved in it, and then maybe he loved to hunt and he loved to fish. So it would be a lifetime thing of them taking care of it. If something happened to it, the city would not be liable for it. They thought about planting a chestnut tree that he brought back from Switzerland. Is that what it was said? I don't know. Sweden.
Now I forgot.
I just, so anyways, and he started that, and they're growing, and they said chestnut or an oak tree, whichever. And Mel talked to Barry and said that he said the chestnuts, they don't have very big or very many nuts on them that would drop and be a mess. So Mel and I discussed, and we thought it'd be up to council on if it was okay if the boys did this. So they're getting if you're interested in what the bench is going to look like, Mitch Minnis has got that. So
Do we have any ordinances based on what goes into the square? I'm not sure how that
However, it
works.
hinders the mowing for now. He can make it to where it doesn't hinder them.
Well,
They're big
currently we've got the metal benches underneath and they're lightweight, people can kind of move them in different directions. It's gonna be in one place and stay there, so. So, the only thing about that is, the tree we're real careful about how we do this. I mean, even with a pad, because the tree's gonna get bigger, it's gonna take a number of years, so we'll have to do some planning. But what Barry did say, they talked about, we've got, I was concerned about getting a lot of, different bigger nuts, things falling and stuff like we got, all kinds of locust trees with seed pods and coffee bean tree and, we've got other things over. I just was curious, I didn't want to get some kind of massive deal over there.
I don't know, it's great when you take kids on a nature walk over there. There's all sorts of stuff to find.
Yeah.
So chestnuts.
So
But I don't know if chestnuts are zoned for this area.
I don't know how that would work. So.
The other thing to think about, I'm not, it's a good idea, but how do you draw the line on having everybody wanting to have a memorial on the square?
correct. That's what Mel and I talked about as well.
I've been
that would be my concern about the thing of letting it happen would be just be opening the gate to a whole lot of.
When we did the Main Street planning and stuff like that, that was one thing that was brought up at some of the workshops we went to about people wanting to do a memorial or doing something like that. Is exactly what Troy is saying. It can get out of hand, the right word, but it can just get to be almost overwhelming when everyone wants to do this. And then you can, right now we have an offer of they're going to take care of it, but sometimes they buy a tree and then the tree dies and for whatever reason, and then say, well, who's going to pay for the replacement? So if that's already lined out, that in this case, but, yeah, and, you know, one of the terms that was used, you know, that you almost turn your park into a memorial garden rather than a park, so, or a square or something, so that is just one concern. I think it's great what they want to do, but it's up to the council to decide what they want to do.
That same issue though also came up when they put that sign package in the park honoring the people that gave money for Randall Square and the city called out a flag for that. The other thing I would say, you might want to look at the height of the tree. And a lot of you remember back in the middle 70s when the square was full of the tall elm trees and they all started dying off and they were taken out. There was kind of a master plan drawn for the park, and there were certain species of trees that they wanted to have planted in there so that the trees would not be, they all be medium-sized trees rather than the big, tall elms that we took out. So I think you probably need to go back and dig in the records. If you're going to have a tree donated, you need to probably keep one with the same characteristics as the height and spread and that kind of thing, so you kind of keep the same thing that you did have. That was one of the things that they did back when they did a plan. I don't know, it was before I was city attorney, but there was a plan as to what trees would go where and what was planted and what species specifically to keep the heights down. So.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea too. I think we just need to look into it a little bit more and make sure. Yeah, the chestnut, he started, right?
Yes,
Or
it
he
started
brought
this
it.
evening.
Okay, and so whether, I mean, we just need to look into that, I think, and see.
How big they get,
Yeah,
they're
and-
sturdy
And I don't think I don't know how big his seedlings are, but it doesn't, I mean, I would think you'd want to plant a pretty good sized tree in the,
right,
not
that
a
starter,
little,
yeah.
not a little tiny thing, you
Yeah.
know, that's
Not
probably-
something that's gonna get mowed over.
Yeah. And I wonder if a chestnut isn't the choice, maybe we allow them to do that somewhere else. Brown Park or.
And it has been a real concern, and Barry's been real helpful, but we've got into the same issue. You plant a tree or get a tree, and then you look at it and this side is stunted because this other tree is finally getting big enough, and we've got some trees that are really coming along nicely, and so we really need a plan that we don't cause a problem in 20 years from now and say, well, man, this thing's got to go.
So I would think the place to be, see about doing that would be St. John Cemetery.
I don't think they can plant trees out there.
Or we can't.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know, that's something we'd have to talk to the board
Well,
about.
I don't think you can now.
Oh, well, I think instead of buying a tombstone, this is what the boys wanted to do.
I mean, it's a great idea, but I, kind of like Troy, I kind of question it if you're not open to it.
And I agree with him 100%. Yeah. I mean, the next person might want to put a tire out there.
It doesn't matter what you're putting out there.
Exactly.
To me, that ain't the whole point of the square.
No.
To do that, I would think there'd be some other more maybe appropriate place. I don't know that.
Right.
But like I said, I mean, I'm not trying to downgrade them for
Right.
what they're doing. I mean, it's a very good idea.
Right.
So,
No, but it's a valid question. I mean, we need to find out where we're gonna draw the line on this.
Yeah, I don't know if that might be good. There's no bench, I mean, they have the bleachers down there, but there's not any regular benches, is there not?
Cornwall Park, if that don't follow the rules on the Cornwall Park,
But to me, you still need to come up with some guidelines.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, like I said,
No matter where
you
you
don't
put
have
your
a park,
bench.
you have I'm not trying to be rude, but you
A
have another
memorial.
cemetery
Yeah.
in town.
Barry, you say you already talked to Barry Reagan?
Yes.
About the tree, just the
And he
variety.
He thinks it's not overforested now?
No, not that part. I just asked him about the chestnut tree, that's the only question I asked him.
I was gonna say, you might ask him about that. It might be close tolerances on too many trees at some point.
Okay.
just look into it a little bit
I'll
more.
say we'll table it or whatever
Yeah.
until we
Yeah.
do some more
Put
investigation.
it on
or
whole
whatever.
business, I guess, if you please.
One other thing I'd like, can I have a free minute? Under new business?
Sure.
On your newspaper article.
Yeah.
Man, I wish you, when you write that, you put all the information in. You come out sounding like, you come up with this idea of the school in here. That wasn't even approached. That's an idea you come up with on your own and you put it in the paper to try and make everybody else in here look stupid.
That was not my intention.
Well, that's what it came.
Well, I'm sorry, but
And
that,
then second of all, you, I don't know, that's just,
you can take it for however you want, but that's my opinion on the whole thing. Take
well,
it
I
for
mean, you're
what it's
trying to
worth.
be a hero and you're,
No, I'm
none of
not.
us are heroes. We're
Everybody,
zeros, so-
everybody that knows me pretty well, knows that's not my intention.
Well, to me, if you
So I don't
have an
really care
idea for
about
the
that.
city, you mention it in here where it's actually supposed to go down and not in the paper 2 weeks after it's already
Well,
been decided.
Troy, one of the things that, you'd said during that meeting, you'd said that one point, when we accept bids, we usually take the lowest. What happened?
Usually, not always.
That's what you
We have
said.
not taken
You
always.
look at the camera, and that's what you said.
Okay, but we
It's
don't
on
always
there.
take the lowest.
Okay, and what
Usually
happened?
it's
What
on
happened in this one right here? This thing. I mean, we already have a website.
Did he have a bid in? Did he have time to get a bid in?
He wasn't bidding in it, but there was
Then why
another
bring
bid
it up?
lower in
It
there.
doesn't matter.
There was another bid in there
Well,
that
you're
was
worrying
much
about this
lower.
$300 bid, which wasn't even a concern. It wasn't even a bid.
Here's the thing. We have a workable website that can be upgraded to however anybody wants it to look. All it needed was direction.
It was a general
That's all we
consensus
needed
of the
was direction
council to
on it.
look into it, and we did.
And then
Everybody had their input
went
in
ahead
it.
and spend this kind of money when you're telling other department heads not to spend money.
We
And
didn't
then you
tell
go
them
ahead
not to spend money. We say watch spend.
you tell them this, and then we go ahead and we spend $3,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I just wish
I
if
just
you
think
put
it's
it
a
in the
waste of
paper,
money.
you actually put it like it is instead of the way you thought it would.
No,
I
sir.
will
Instead
say
of
that
making
I was-
everybody else you're trying to make yourself look really
No, I
good.
wasn't. No,
And
I
everybody
wasn't.
else on here as an idiot, and because you brought up the whole school deal, which was not even brought up in the meeting.
Well, one of the things that came after, I thought about that later.
Well, then you should have put it in the paper.
Well, okay.
As an
maybe
afterthought,
I
this
should
is
have done
maybe
that.
what we should have done, but the way it comes across in the paper is that it was brought up in front of the council and it was voted down.
Well,
And
here's
that ain't
the
the
thing.
case.
Here's
And
the
you know-
thing. You know what? Like I said, we had a perfectly good website that we could have used. We could have done whatever we needed to do with it.
Well,
we chose to
not,
spend the
because
money
council
on it,
didn't see
so.
it that way.
Yeah.
So,
Move to adjourn.
Yeah.
Second.
out of here.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Thank you.